I'm Melissa. So I guess I'll start by talking a little bit about really the beginning of the Dodo and how we hatched. Basically, we were really the brainchild of Izzy Lair, who had this vision for an entirely new website and to capitalize on this market that no one had capitalized on yet. So almost a year ago now, she gathered this team, including myself, of people who had media backgrounds and journalism backgrounds and backgrounds in wildlife and animal, whatever, I mean everything really. And the timing was perfect. I mean, we had really been coming off of this perfect storm of elements that made this field, one, important, and two, marketable. So kind of harkening back to animal liberation in the 1960s and 70s and these really green movements, that kind of died out in the 80s and 90s, and we didn't have really a market for people who are animal rights activists or even animal lovers to get a little legitimacy. I mean, people were throwing blood on people, and it wasn't really like a mainstream movement. So in the past decade or so, we've seen that kind of change and totally turn around. With the films that we've seen blow up, 2009's The Cove, which documented this really brutal dolphin hunt in Taiji, and people had never seen something so viscerally presented to them. Then that was followed by Blackfish, which hopefully you've seen, and really blew up and has become one of our most important issues. These films went mainstream, and for the animal rights movement, that's unusual. Then we saw, the academic sector getting in on the fun, and they were starting these academic initiatives, looking at animal philosophy, which is really a field, believe it or not. And we saw people turning to vegetarianism like never before. 1 in 10 people now are vegetarians in the US, which to me is weird. And then we saw people getting more pets, and now there are 164 million pet-owning households in the US, which has tripled since the 70s. And we saw all of these other sort of signs that people wanted something to do with animals, but to be frank, it's difficult to join PETA because there's a bit of a barrier to entry, and you don't want to seem sometimes like maybe this activist who is gonna rip your fur coat off. But the great thing about the Dodo, and that we've learned in almost a year of publishing, well, a half a year I guess, but a year of being the Dodo. The great thing we've learned is really, as Paul said, everyone has an animal story, and everyone wants to talk about it. I have a million animal stories that I would never say in public, and I'm sure most people have the same thing, but so we get these sort of average people that can contribute something like that. And then we get, important, influential people who can give their account of something or their reaction to a trip to a factory farm or anything like that. So the barrier to entry is hopefully nothing, because people can come and see a pug running up the stairs, or they can come and read about something terrible that's happened at SeaWorld. So we really kind of capitalized on that really wide audience and really brought these people together in a way that had never been done before. And one of the really unique things about us, you could probably say that animal news is everywhere on the internet, and that's true. That's more than true. But the one thing that makes us sort of different is that we come at it from this sort of really critical eye. So we would never publish something that doesn't fit our editorial standards. We would never publish, someone putting a dog in a costume and kind of laughing at it, because that doesn't really fit with our message. And sort of the other side, the Dodo has important investigative reporting and reliable reporting, but the other side of this that is sort of new is advocacy. And we aren't going to, pretend that we don't have a voice, that we don't have some sort of issue that we're pushing. We have one, and we're never going to apologize for it. So the great thing about that, though, is that attracts this audience that, for social media people, is the best audience ever. They want to do stuff, and they want you to tell them what to do. So we can have a story about SeaWorld, and if we don't put any petition or CTA, which Paul can tell you a little more about, if we put no call to action on it, people get really mad. They really don't like that. They want something to do, and this audience is incredibly reactive, and we tell them to go write a letter or sign a petition or send it out to their social channels. And I guess that would bring me to this. So this is our most successful story, and it really blew up for us. And it's a really wonderful story for us because it really incorporated everything that we do and spanned sort of our subject matter. So I'll kind of go through it quickly because it's really nerdy, but there's this one orca population that lives in the San Juan Islands of Washington. And it's a very small population. It's about 79 whales right now, I think, as of last week. And it's really been under threat for decades. It was decimated in the 1970s by SeaWorld captures, which is really relevant to us because people love to hate SeaWorld. And now it's being hurt by a lack of food and all of these environmental toxicants in its environment from different things like PCBs and POPs. So this population is doing really poorly, but they have one orca whose name colloquially is Granny, because she is hell of old. She's very, very old. And she's 103 years old, which may not seem that much, but for for a whale, that's a lot, and for any species, that's exceptional. So she hadn't been spotted for a while, and a lot of these researchers live on the islands, and they spend every day going out and identifying the whales, and it's really important to them. So they were worried that she'd passed. And then they spotted her about a month after she'd last been seen. And so there was these sort of local stories saying, oh, Granny's been spotted, she's not dead. And we saw that, and we said, well, what can we do to take this piece of information and make it actionable and make people use it to do something? I mean, how does this relate to our activists that want to take action? And how can we, make our website do well? So we looked at SeaWorld's website, and they have all of these different age estimates for orca whales. And they say captive orca whale lives about 30 to 35, and because they are free from predators and bad weather and environmental pollution, they live longer than wild whales. And this is just so clearly not true. And it was based on faulty science, which we kind of teased out in the story, and just juxtaposing those two pieces of information. I mean, we really didn't even have to say, oh, SeaWorld's lying to you. Like, we just said, this is the age of the orca, this is what SeaWorld says. And people went just bonkers. I mean, they went crazy. And so, I mean, you can see, we got over 6 million page views, and that's still growing. And you can see it on our sort of traffic. It's bizarre. And 900,000 Facebook likes. So almost, right now, we've got almost 1 million signatures on the CTA, which I should definitely mention, this is not a petition. It tracks a certain hashtag. So for this hashtag, anytime someone tweets the hashtag boycott SeaWorld, which was our call. So our call was boycott SeaWorld until they stop their orca breeding program, because we don't really have a problem with the rest of the park, it's really the orcas. And so this is really a measure of the public support for this issue. And it's really great for us because not only can we see people are reading this story and they're tweeting it out with that hashtag, we can also monitor that hashtag and see what's the ratio here, like how much are we dominating this? And if we're not, what else are people saying about this that we should be covering? So it's a really great tool for getting our information out there, but also it kind of comes back into us. And it's great. I mean, it's really wonderful to see that action happen. So then also it's really important to note that our community grew just because of this one story. And as Paul can tell you, I mean, that is really the most effective way to get our information out there, because once we have one person in the community, it's really like a badge of honor, and they can say, I want everyone to read this, my story. And they have to go to the Dodo to read it. So, and then that person probably would say, oh, well, I want to contribute. I have an interesting story about my trip to SeaWorld or whatever. And then they'll do the same thing. It's sort of like this trickle-down spider web that really keeps moving. It has been one of our best features so far. So, yeah, let's see what
Yeah. So the thing that I'm so excited about this calls to action thing is on the Rebel Mouse platform. That's part of any article you can associate with tags, so that can be something you have a call to action around any article about marine life, etc. And it really gives this meta underneath every article. There's usually a beat, right? So with this article, the beat was SeaWorld sucks, and this is the way to elevate that for people to have something to do. And that very lightweight, at least I shared and caused awareness for it, leads to the next level of depth, which is, okay, great, now join, like, so get more updates when stuff like this comes. And then right when they're clear through that, then it says, but also write for us. Why do you care so much? So you're capturing that person, and there's drop off, of course, so that massive 7 million page views thing. That's the sort of, I mean, basically with the feed eating the world, you have to expect that the majority of people are going to see it, oh my God, share, bounce back to where they were. But the more and more you gather these people, that 50,000 new community members is actually dramatically even more important than the 7 million page views, because they start to contribute. So I think we caught part of this, and then the most important part is that bottom right, where this one article created 250 new articles that the Dodo didn't have to pay for, that were written by people passionate about the issue that they care about.